Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. Over the course of my career, I have had to cold call a lot. I knocked on over 20,000 doors when I was in college as a door-to-door salesperson. After I finished graduate school, I then worked for an enterprise software company selling anti-spam, like spyware and anti-spam filtering software to large corporate enterprises. And then my wife and I built an actual sales consulting company where we cold called on large companies and small companies to train their salespeople how to sell. And as an author, I've cold called on literary agents. As a speaker, I've cold called companies to get speaking engagements. I've made tens of thousands of cold calls. And how you open your cold call makes a big difference. And when it comes to cold calling, I think most of us get super nervous and when we're nervous and when we're afraid and when we're scared, it's usually about nailing those first 30 seconds. Like we're most nervous about what do we say and what happens in those first opening seconds. And it really is important that you get it right. And most people don't. Most people get it wrong. In fact, most of the sales trainers and most of the scripts that you ever come across are awful. They're terrible. They're stupid. Like they're horrendous. They don't make they don't work. And so I want to talk to you in this video. I'm going to share with you, first of all, the mindset of what we're after here when we are cold calling. And then I'm going to talk you through the two most common mistakes that we see when we watch people, like when we've coached people who are cold calling, or the mistakes that I have made, right? I mean, out of 30,000 or more, thousands and thousands of cold calls, I've made a lot of these mistakes myself. So I'm just going to share with you the things that don't really work. And then I'm going to share with you a three-step process here towards the end of exactly what you should do when you're making cold calls if you want to nail those opening seconds and have an actual chance. First of all, let's talk about the mindset, right? What's the mindset here? The mindset is serving, not selling, right? That's everything that we're about at Brand Builders Group, service-centered selling. So the mindset is always serving, not selling. So the mindset isn't how do I trick someone? It's not how do I manipulate them? It's not what's the ninja voodoo tactic that I can magically say that's going to somehow take someone who wouldn't buy and make them a buyer. I'm not trying to sneak something under their radar, right? That's not what it's about. Now, service-centered is being confident. It's being direct, it's being confident. It's also being aware that for many people, the answer is going to be no, and that's okay. Your job as a service-centered salesperson is not to magically take someone who's a no and make them a yes. That's not your job. If you think that's your job, that is going to create pressure on you. That's not the job of a service-centered salesperson. The job of a service-centered salesperson is to find all of the people that could genuinely benefit from your product or service. That's it. To find all the people who could benefit from your product or service and give them a genuine, honest look, a genuine opportunity to buy what you're selling, or to show them, right? I often don't even think about it as like my job is to sell. My job is to find them, and my job is to show this to them. It's really their job to decide whether or not it's the fit. And right there is the mindset shift, right? Like, it takes you from that adversarial of like me against you, and this is like some type of a combat where I'm given some manipulative, high pressure, slimy sales tactic from some video you saw on the internet, or one of these old school sales training manuals or something. It's not that, right? It's just being direct and saying, hey, here's who I am. This is what I got. This is who I talk to. Can it help you, right? So I want you to understand that mindset. Like, your job is not to sell, your job is to serve. Now, that said, you're going to be dealing with some sales resistance, right? People have a natural resistance to being sold something because of all the bad advice and because of the decades of horrible training that has gone on. You're going to have to combat some of that. So your internal mindset is one of service. also externally, the things that come out of your mouth, they should sound more like you're talking to a friend and less like you're giving a formal pitch. And you'll understand here when we talk about some of these mistakes. But I want you to approach the whole thing as it's not adversarial, right? It's not you versus them, it's you in service of them. You're there to see if you can help them. And if they're going to say no, if they're going to reject you, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting this thing that you have. And so that takes a lot of the pressure off of you right up front. In fact, one of the things that we say at Brand Builders Group all the time is there is no fear when the mission to serve is clear. If you shift this sales encounter from one away from the idea of it's me versus them, and you shift it to it's me for them, it's me with them, it's me coming around and sitting on their side, and then I'm going to talk to them the way that I would talk to a normal person, like the way that I would talk to a friend, the way that I would talk in real life, not the way that a robot would sound or some weird, cheesy professional salesman would sound, okay? So that's the mindset. Now let's talk about the mistakes, okay? So here's the most common mistakes. Mistake number one is leading with your company name, right? So if you say, hey, it's Rory Vaden from Brand Builders Group, that is a mistake. Why? Because they're not going to recognize your company name most likely, and whether they do or they don't, that's not how friends talk to each other, right? You don't call someone and say, call your buddy and be like, hey, it's Rory from Brand Builders Group. What's up, man? You want to hang out? Like, that's not how we talk in real life. It's not how we talk to normal people. Now, by not sharing your company name, we're not trying to be misleading. We're not trying to hide anything. We're not hiding anything. We're just going, look, if my job is to honestly serve them, if my job is to help them take an honest look at what I have, if my job is to present to them something that may or may not help them, I have to give them an honest chance to do that. And so I also don't want to do anything that is going to negatively, work against that opportunity. So anything that immediately signals and ties into their fear that I'm just, some slimy salesperson or something, I want to stay away from that, right? I just want to have an honest human conversation. And so usually I will stick with first names if I'm cold calling, right? So, say, hey, is it Lisa? Hey, Lisa, this is Rory. Why? Because that's how people talk to each other, right? You call your friends usually by nicknames and stuff like that. You don't call and you don't use people's last names. So I want to create this sort of friendly conversational tone, just like I would in real life talking to a real life friend. So don't lead with your company name. The other thing is don't ask them a question right away. Now, I'm a fan of questions. Questions are good. Great sales is more about being a great question asker than a great talker. I really believe that. And there is a place for questions, and we're going to use a question here soon, but don't start your conversation with like, hey, Lisa, it's Rory. Do you have a minute? Like, nobody has a minute, okay? Nobody does. Like, nobody has spare time. There's not a sales call that I've ever made where someone was like, you know what? I was just looking for someone to talk to. Thanks for calling. Like, I actually would love to talk to somebody. They don't. Like, they're busy, right? They weren't sitting around waiting for you, and it accomplishes zero by asking them if they have time, if they have a minute. Also, they go, how you doing? I don't care. I don't care to tell you how I'm doing, right? So that kind of cheesy fodder, that pandering, it doesn't work. It's just not helpful. It doesn't serve them in any way. And what we want is we want to serve them. We want to be useful to them. So we want to shape the conversation to be helpful for them right away. And doing a question is going to create that sales resistance right up front because they go, man, I don't know you. Like, that's what they're thinking, right? They're going, man, I don't know you. Like, who are you? Why are you bugging me? That is what they are afraid of, all right? So don't do that. Don't do one of those two things. Don't lead with your company name. Don't use your last name. And also don't ask them some frivolous question. Don't pander to them. Those are telltale signs that you're a cheesy salesperson, that you're just another solicitor, right? Talk to them in a normal voice, use first names, okay? And now let's talk about the three-step process for how you do want to execute that call. Step number one, we've already talked about this a little bit, is a conversational tone, You're going to use first names, not last names. So you're just going to make sure that you say, hey, Lisa, this is Rory. Okay, not this is Rory Vaden, because you don't introduce yourself with last names like you do. That is a sign that you're a stranger, right? Now, that said, I'm not going to introduce my last name, but the very first thing that I'm going to say after my name is I'm going to acknowledge the fact that we haven't met yet. Why? Because I'm going to come forward with that. I'm going to say, look, I know that you're thinking, who the heck am I? And I don't need you to rack your brain. I want to let you know that we haven't met yet. So I'm going to take a confident stance of making it clear that we don't know each other, but maybe we should. But also, maybe there's no reason for us to talk, okay? So I want to sort of stand confidently in this space. And so a line, there's many different ways you can say this, but an example of a line you would use is you would say, hey, is it Lisa? Hey, Lisa, this is Rory, and you and I haven't had a chance to meet yet. Or I'd say, hey, Lisa, this is Rory, and don't worry, don't try to rack your brain thinking about where we've met, because we've not been introduced to one another yet. Something like that. So I'm going to let her know, or him, right up front that we haven't met. That's part of the relationship. So they go, okay, great. So now I've just opened the door, instead of getting an immediate door slam by going, oh my gosh, hi, this is Rory Vaden. Okay, slam, I don't know Rory Vaden. Hi, this is Rory from Brand Builders Group. Slam, like I've never heard of your company. Hey, this is Rory, how you doing? Slam, you sound like a salesperson. When I say, hey, is it Lisa? Hey, Lisa, this is Rory, and you and I haven't had a chance to meet yet. Okay, I got a little window here, not much, right? But I've bought myself an extra half a second, which is all I need to execute step 2, okay? So step 1 of how to do this right, okay, is to let them know that you haven't met yet, and be right up front. Be open, be honest. If there's any chance of someone giving you an extra second, it is through honesty and openness. So that's what we're going to do. Let them know that we haven't met yet. Now, that gives me an opportunity, a fraction of a second, to get to step 2, which is to use this phrase, the reason. This is a magical phrase. The reason I'm calling you. There is a psychological trigger that happens. When you hear the reason, everybody piques interest, right? They tune in, they pay attention, because you go, great, you are getting to the point. Now, here's another common mistake, is people say, hey, this will only take a minute. I'm not a fan of saying that, because first of all, they don't have a minute to waste. And it's almost like I'm saying, hey, if you can just endure this for a second, that's not it. And I don't want to say, I don't want to waste time saying I'll get to the point. I want to just get to the point. And that's what they want too. They don't want to hear you say you'll get to the point. They just want to hear you get to the point. So get to the point. So you say, hi, is it Lisa? Hey, Lisa, this is Rory, and you and I haven't met yet, but the reason I'm calling is. And so right there you have all of these things happening, firing in that opening moment. We're using first names, right? We're not using last names. We're not using company names. We're keeping it casual. We're talking the way that we would talk among friends, yet I am openly, transparently, and honestly letting her know that we haven't met yet. Okay, so now she doesn't have to worry about, is this a weird something going on, or like, who is this person? We'll say, hey, we haven't met yet. So I've got the slate clean. And now in step 2, I'm saying the reason I'm calling is. I'm not telling her I'm getting to the point. I'm just getting to the point. Don't waste time telling people that you're going to get to the point. Just get to the point by using the phrase, the reason. The reason I'm calling is. And then here's step 3, and this is where their magic happens. If you've never done this before, this will sound different to you, but this is different, because this is not what most people do, which is one of the reasons why it works. Okay, and here's what I want you to do. Talk about who, not what. In other words, don't talk about what you're selling. Don't talk about what company you are from. Talk about who are the kind of people you talk to. All right, so I'll say that again. Don't talk about what, talk about who are the kind of people you talk to. And we're going to do this in 2 ways. We're going to first start generally, and then we're going to be specific. And when you talk about who, not what, this is the magic. And if there is a secret trick to great cold calling, to it working, it is this. It is talking about who, not what. Now, I want to let you know, like, there's no ultimate secret here. A lot of this is just a numbers game. A lot of this is you're just going to deal with rejection. A lot of this is you have to just do hundreds and hundreds and thousands of calls until you get comfortable doing this kind of a thing. But if there's a secret, if there's a magic strategy, a magic technique that will tip the odds in your favor, it is talking about who, not what, and there's two types of who. There's the general and the specific, okay? So let's talk about the general. So I will say, the reason I'm calling is because I am the one talking to all of the, and then usually I will insert the job title, and then I will insert like the area, the geographic region. So when I was knocking on doors, when I was in college, I would say, I'm the one talking with all the moms with students here in the blankety blank school district, or with students here in, whatever, Nashville, Tennessee, or Brentwood, or Davidson County. I would say, I am talking to the who. This is super powerful. I mean, I'm telling you, this works in all different scales, all different environments. So when I was selling enterprise software solutions, I would say, hey, I'm the one talking with all the IT directors for all the large software companies, or all the companies based here in Cherry Creek, Colorado, for example. So I would say the who, the job title, in the region, like the geographic region. You could also say in an industry. So if you're calling by verticals in industry, right, you could say, I'm the one talking with all the mortgage bankers here in the Western United States. But make the geographic region, the more specific, the more terrific. So narrow the region or narrow the industry as much as you can. And because it shows credibility, and it shows specificity, which is what you want. Because here's what happens psychologically. When they hear that you're talking to all the IT directors for all the companies in Cherry Creek, Colorado, or all the moms in the Davidson County School District, or if I'm calling to sell a keynote speech, I might say, I'm talking to all the event coordinators for all the companies who have events in Orlando. Now it shifts from who are you, because I've just said, who am I? This is what I'm doing. And it shifts to them asking the question, am I the right fit? Right? So it turns their focus psychologically from who are you? I don't know if I like you. What are you doing? And all this sort of like sales resistance to, am I the right person that you're trying to reach? And that's good, because we want them to be thinking about themselves. All of sales is about that. All of sales is getting them to shift the focus away from you as the salesperson and onto them and their situation and their needs. And so by letting them know who are the kind of people that you're talking to, then you're more likely to create a connection with them. Or they might say, oh, that's not me, and that's great. So we just saved a whole conversation. They can put you in touch with the right person. So lead with the who and say the job title from the geographic industry or the geographic region, or say the job title of people in this industry, or whatever vertical or territory that you're working in terms of whatever your sales territory is, okay? That's what we want to see. So that's the general. And it immediately has them going, am I qualified? Like, am I the right person? Am I the right candidate? And that shifts the focus off of you as the salesperson and onto them, which is what we want. We want the whole conversation, the whole relationship to not be focused on you, but on them and their needs. So I'll say, hey, Lisa, this is Rory, and don't worry, you and I haven't had a chance to meet yet, but the reason I'm calling is because I'm the one talking with all the IT directors for all the small businesses right here in Cherry Creek, Colorado. Now notice how I'm narrowing down to the job title. I'm saying the small businesses, so this is like business type, and the geographic region. You want to use as many of those qualifiers as you can when you do this, because you want to check, and you're going to use the criteria that they will relate to, right? You want them to go, ooh, I am an IT director of a small business in Cherry Creek, Colorado. That is how you're gaining momentum. Now notice, all of it's happening in their mind. That's all of sales is communication. It's human behavior. It's psychology. So most of the conversation is happening in their mind, and that's what we're designing this to, in a way to make it comfortable for them. This isn't about
magically sleazing your way past them or manipulating them. This is putting them in a state of psychological comfort. It is helping them self-identify quickly, is this a conversation worth having? So, hi, is it Lisa? Hi, Lisa, this is Rory, and you and I haven't had a chance to meet yet, but the reason I'm calling is that I'm talking with all the IT directors of the small businesses in the Cherry Creek, Colorado area. That's the opening. That's the general who. Now, I'm going to follow up with the specific who. And the specific who is I'm going to use examples of the other people that I'm talking with. So I'm going to use the names of our preferably clients, okay? Now, typically, there's some logistical details here and some legal implications in certain scenarios in certain industries. So one of the things you want to do is get the permission to use the name, image, and likeness of your clients. This is more of a contract thing. Or just at least ask them and say, hey, do you mind if I let people know that we're working together as I'm out introducing myself to other people? And you just ask for their permission. And you need that so that you can use it here. Now, if it's your very first day and you don't have any customers, you can delicately and carefully and specifically mention these are people you're talking to. They're not clients. As soon as you have clients, you want to use the clients' names because the clients' names give you credibility because of the specificity. Even if they don't know that person, they probably will know that company, or they will at least relate to the idea that it's a similar type of person in a similar type of company, in a similar type of geographic region, or a similar type of industry as the one that they are in. And that gives you credibility, right? So you would ideally, and now if they recognize the clients, or if then that's a game changer. I mean, that is the secret sauce. That is the magic, is if they recognize people that you're working with. So get the permission to use their name, image, and likeness, and use customers as soon as you can. In the beginning, if you don't have customers, you can just say, share, I've been talking with, but be very specific that you are, don't imply that you're working together, just clarify, I've been talking to people that some of whom you may know, like so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. But here's the dynamic of this conversation. The whole dynamic is based on who, not what. Who are the kind of people you're talking to? Who are the kind of people you've been working with? And who are the kind of people that you have relationships with? Notice you haven't said what company you're with, what it is that you're selling. We're trying to open a conversation based on who. And this is why in some of our other training videos, we talk about using tools like LinkedIn and things to help identify and know and have names and references of people that they actually will recognize because of the tools of modern day. But let's say you didn't have any of those. You'd say, hi, is it Lisa? Hey, Lisa, my name is Rory, and you and I actually haven't had a chance to meet yet. But the reason that I'm calling you is because I'm the one talking with all the IT directors here in the Cherry Creek area who all work with small businesses. In fact, you might know some of the other IT directors I've been talking to. By chance, do you know Tom Williams over at XYZ Company? Or maybe you know Mike Lorenzo, or maybe you know Jim Johnson, or maybe you know, and they may not recognize any of them, and that's okay. But they might recognize the company names, and the more specific, the more terrific. So if you're using names, like if you actually have clients that are recognizable, or they work for companies, you're going to gain a lot of traction in that way. I want to mention, don't ever use a customer's name if they tell you not to, or anybody's name if they tell you not to. But you're not doing this for you, you're doing this for them. Why? Because this puts them at ease. This helps your prospect reduce their sales resistance. It helps them reduce this friction, this automatic no, and it allows us to have an honest conversation amongst friends. And it allows us to open up what hopefully will be a beautiful relationship. It might be a short relationship if it's not a fit, but we're shifting the focus away from me as this cold calling solicitor, and we're shifting the conversation over to them and their needs by talking about who, not what. So for more insights and information on the psychology of influence, make sure that you hit subscribe on my channel. Follow me here below. If you have a question, leave a comment. But this is what I'm spend my whole life studying on the 4 levels of influence. So I hope you hit subscribe and check out some of our other videos.